Hello friends, you're welcome to Queen's Fashion World channel. Today with me, I want to specially thank my subscribers. Thank you so very much for all of your support. God bless you. And if today is your first time of tuning this channel, you are welcome. Please do well to hit the subscription button and tap on the bell by the side to get an update whenever I upload a new video. Today I will be teaching how to draft a bustier with a yoke, and I will also cut it down with a fabric, but for the yoke, because of yoke, I'm going to draft it on my pattern paper, then I will transfer it to the fabric. And this video, I'll do it two in one, the cutting and the sewing. So stay with me as I continue. This line here you're seeing is my starting point. This is how we normally do it every time. So I'll place my tape at the upper part. Don't mind my paper here. This line you're seeing is just a joining. I join the paper. The only thing you have to concentrate is my marker. Anywhere you see my blue marker, just follow that line. So I'll place my tape at the upper part, and from shoulder to the bust point of this person is 11 inches. So I'm using 11 and a half. This line here is 11 and a half. Then I will still leave my tape like that. From the shoulder to under bust of this person is 14 and a half inches. So I mark 15 inches here. Why I'm adding this half inches to join the upper part. Now from shoulder to the half length of this person is 17 and a half inches. And 17 and a half inches, this line you're seeing here is 18 and a half inches. I added 1 inch to it, half inch to join the upper part, half inch to join the down. So I just indicate my line, bust line, under bust line, and half length line. Now the next place I will quickly mark is the shoulder. The shoulder is 16 and a half inches. 16 and a half inches divided by 2 will give me 8 1/4. 8 1/4 will add half inch to it, so it will give me 8 3/4. So I will go ahead and mark my 8 3/4 like this from this point. Then I will mark the neck. The neck width, I'll use 3 inches for the neck width. The depth, I can use 3 inches or 3 and a half because it's a yoke, so you don't allow the neck to be too deep. So I'll use 3 inches. Since it's a pattern, let me use 3 inches. So I will connect the neckline like this. I will also mark 3 inches this way and connect it together. I will connect a square. Then I will use my ruler to carve the neck like this. Now, the shoulder slope, I will come down by 1 inch, normal 1 inch for shoulder slope. Then I will connect from the shoulder slope to the neck point like this. So this is my shoulder slope. How to get my armhole now? So the bust measurement here is 39 inches. 39 inches divided by 6, that will give me 6.5. That is 6 and a half. Then I will add 1 and a half inches to it. So I will use 8 inches for the armhole length. So I'm going to connect it like this. This is my armhole line. So automatically this line now has become my chest line. That is the upper bust line. I will check the shoulder. The 8 3/4 that I use for the shoulder, I'm going to mark that same 8 3/4 here, and I will connect it like this to the upper side. Then I'll use my curve roller to give my armhole shape like this. Now how to curve the front armhole. Now our front armhole with the back is not the same. So I will check the midpoint. This is 8 inches. You fold your tape like this, or you divide it into 2. Fold your tape like this and you get the midpoint. Then from the midpoint I can go in by 3/4. Depends the person. If the person have a small bust, a small breast, you can go in by half inch. But if the person have a big bust, then you go in by 3/4. Then this place will be very deep, so you have to use 3/4. So I will go ahead and connect this way now. I will connect from this down now to this part like this. Then I will connect it from this part to the upper side. So this is the front armhole. Let me use my hand to blend it well. So this is the shape that I will use for the front armhole. So the next place I will be marking again is the nipple to nipple. Divide your nipple to nipple measurement into 2 and add a half inch to it. So nipple to nipple measurement here is 8 inches divided by 2. That will give me 4 inches. I will add half inch to it. So I will use a 4.5 inches to mark my bust band now. That is the dart. I'll use a, so I will connect these lines together like this. Now, before you, whenever you're to cut a bustier with a yoke, from the measurement you're taking the person, first of all decide from the shoulder where the yoke will stop. Some people will say 6 inches, some people will say 7 inches. So for this person is 7.5 inches that I measure this person, but I will be using 7 inches to mark, because if I mark with 7 inches and I sew the yoke to the bodies, that means half inch will be gone. So I'm using 7 inches. I take away half inch for sewing allowance. So I'm going to mark 7 inches like this. I will connect it together like so. So this is my yoke line now. So I'm going to extend this dart line now up to this yoke line. I will connect it up to this yoke line now. Okay. So how to mark the bustier? This is my under bust line. This is my bust line. Let me start with my under bust line. If I'm making this gown now for someone that the bust is very small, maybe the shape between the bust and the under bust is just a difference of 4 inches, I will just use 1 inch or 1/4. In fact, I'll use 1/4 to mark this place. But if I'm using it for someone that is very curvy, maybe I check the shape, it's up to 8 inches, 7 inches for under here, so I will use 1.5 to carve this place. So for this person has a shape, the bust is 39, the waist is 32, so I will use 1.5 inches like this to carve this place, the under bust. Then for the down, because this half length is bigger than the under bust is very curvy, so I will mark 1 inch to the half length. Then this side I will go ahead and mark the same 1.5 inch. Then this side, I can make this side to be straight already because we have enough allowance at this side. I can use straight like that, but this side I need to connect it according to shape like this, so that it will accommodate this body, but we have enough allowance here. So I'm going to use the same 1.5. This side is still okay, there is enough allowance at that side, so I will connect it this way. Now this is my bust line, right? From the bust line I'm going to come down by 1 inch like this now. So I'm going to connect my hand from this under bust now to this 1 inch that I come down with. I will use a dotted line. It's easy for me that way to use my dotted line, to just connect it like this. Then this side I will also use my dotted line, but I will turn my paper this way so that I can get it correctly. So now from the bust line to the upper side I'm going to come up by 1 inch again. So this round shape now I will extend it up to this point, this 1 inch, so that it will accommodate the breast. Now this upper side I will also mark my 1.5 inch this way and 1.5 inch this way. Then I will connect it to this 1 inch. I'll use a dotted line also. This method works perfectly for me. I've been using it for a very long time. If you're making a blouse, a top, a gown, so this part now I'm going to turn it this way and blend my hand up to this 1 inch like this, and just blend it together. You have a very nice cup. You see how beautiful the cup is. Now at this point, I'm going to mark the neck. If you're using a yoke on your top or your half length, your gown, so to get the neck, this is the upper neck. Now for the yoke, I will still have to mark neck again. You can come down by 2 inches, 1.5 inches, depends what your client wants. So let me use 1.5 inches if you want, or let me use 1 3/4. Let me use 1 3/4. I want the curve to enter very well. I'll just curve my hand because it's a sweetheart, so just blend it like this. So this will be the yoke now, the line. Now if you're using so this is the neckline now. The next thing I will do now is to add my measurements, the bust circumference. So my bust measurement here is 39 divided by 4. That will give me 9 3/4. So I will go ahead and mark 9 3/4. Then I will add my, you can add 2.5. If you're not sure of the measurement, you can add 2.5, or you can add 2 inches. Let me add 2 inches. This is a pattern paper. Okay, for the bust, I'm going to add 2.5 inches. The reason why, when I cut this lace, I will smooth here very well, so definitely 1/2 inch will be gone from here. So this under bust, I will divide it into 4. 32 divided by 4, that will give me 8 inches. So I will go ahead and add 2 inches sewing allowance. Then I will check the allowance that I will be losing here is 3 inches. I'm going to replace it back 3 inches. The half length circumference is 34. 34 divided by 4, that will give me 8.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark it and add my 2 inches seam allowance. Then I will check what I will be losing here for the bustier is 2.5 inches. So I will go ahead and mark it like this. Now the upper bust, you know the measurement. If you have measurement for the upper bust, you apply it. Sometimes I use the same measurement at this down, but because of the bustier here, I will also check this upper bust. Now the bust measurement, if I'm to use the bust measurement, is 39 inches, 9 3/4. I'll go ahead and mark it like so. Then I will add my 2.5 inches that I added. Then I will check what I will be losing here. This side is 3 inches, but if I check the bust line here, I'm not going to check here because here is a yoke. It's not needed anymore. So I will check close to this bust line now. So what I will be losing here will be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to add 1.5 inches. Now I will connect these lines together, the bust to this. I'll connect it like this and connect it like this and connect it to the down part. You see the way the shape is because of this space here. When you sew in this lace and sew in the under bust, it will fall into place. The shape will be normal again, but because of the way it is, if you fail to add this 1.5, you have shortage here. This lace will not be enough, so I always add it like this. Now if you're doubting, you can also just take this shape and go like this. Later you trim it off again. If you don't like the shape you're seeing here, what you can do is to just take this shape like this and go. Then when you're sewing the dress, you can now follow the normal shape to fall into place at that time. Now let me extend this yoke line up to this point so that I can equal the paper So now this upper side I will still add it here. I just added this other side. Let me check. What I have here is 3 inches. So from this front armhole now, I'm going to mark that 3 inches like this now. So if I'm to mark this armhole from this part now down, it's going to be like this. It's going to be like this now. This is my bust line, remember? So I'm going to find a way to mark like this. Are you seeing now? Are you seeing the shape? So this one now will be my armhole now. This one will be my armhole. You need it. If I'm cutting this upper part, I will cut this side. If I'm cutting the down, I'm using this one now. I hope I've made myself clear. So the next thing I will do again is the down. To slant the down with 1 inch. You know, because of the way the body is, the bust is there at the side, there is nothing. So I always slant my side to make the dress sit perfectly on the body. Let me change my marker. So see what I have now. I'm going to cut it out now. I'll start from the neck to get my yoke out. I'll quickly get my yoke out like this. Then I will stop here and come to the front now. So you follow the yoke line like this and get the yoke out. If you want a yoke, if you don't want a yoke, you can trash it. Now to cut the body, I will take here down immediately so that I will not forget this part and follow like this first. So if you choose to follow this one, let me follow this one better. The shape is nice for now, but I will still have to trim it later. Then I will take the down out like so, and the side. Then I will cut the center now. At this point, you have to curve your hand very well. So sometimes I use this one now to turn this way. I want the shape to be equal, to be nice, because depends how you're keeping your hand. Sometimes this one will be better, the curve here. So I like the curve that I'm seeing here. It's very beautiful. So I can turn it this way, more especially for the upper side, to place it like so, and just follow this shape. And cut it out like this. Then I will quickly notch my under bust line. Very, very important. So I will notch the front under bust like so. So see what I have here now. See how beautiful it is. What will I say? See? So see how beautiful the front is. The cup is very curvy. So I'm going to transfer it to a fabric. I'm using this black fabric here. I'm going to transfer it to fabric, and I will show you how to sew it. So how to draft the back. This line here you're seeing is my zipper allowance. This is the starting point. I have my bust line here. I have my under bust line from shoulder to bust line, shoulder to under bust, and the half length. Now I'm going to mark the shoulder. The zipper allowance is 1.5 inches, normal zipper allowance. So the shoulder is 16. Let me check the measurement. The shoulder is 16.5 inches divided by 2. That will give me 8 1/4 plus half inch. So I will be using 8 3/4 as the shoulder line. Now I'm going to mark the neck, the same 3 inches. but the back neck is going to be a high neck. At the back, I can use a dotted line, just connect it like so. I'm using a high neck, that is 1.5 inches. You check, it's 1.5 inches. So I will just connect my hand like so and extend it to the zipper allowance. Then I will come down by 1 inch at the shoulder to get my shoulder slope, and I will connect it to the neckline like this, the neck points. The same 8 inches that we use for the armhole, I'm going to connect it like so, 8 inches. So this line now is the chest line, the upper bust line. I will also add the same measurement at the chest line like this. The same measurement from the shoulder line. I just connect it from this point now to my shoulder, and I will connect my armhole shape like this. At the back, I'm not going to go in by any 1/2 inch or 3/4 because this is the back armhole. So I'm going to mark my dart now. The bust span. So 8 inches divided by 2, that will give me 4 inches. I will add 1/2 inch to it for sewing allowance. So I'm going to mark 4.5 inches like this, from the half length to the bust length. So I will connect it together like so. Now how to mark my dart? How to mark the dart? I will just mark from this center back 1/2 inch. So I'm going to place my tape like this. Take 1/2 inch this way, 1/2 inch this way. Are you seeing now? Place my tape like this, mark 1/2 inch this way, 1/2 inch this way. Then I'm going to connect it together like this and connect it to the bust line like so. So I will connect this side too and connect it back to the bust line. So this is the dart now. Now how to mark the yoke? Depends your measurement. The yoke at the back can be bigger than the front. The front we use 7 inches. You can use back 8 inches, depends the person. So I'm going to connect the line like this. So I'm going to connect the 8 inches like so. Now if you want to make it a sweetheart, you can come down by 1 inch again and just extend your hand like this. Okay, so this is the back neckline now for the yoke. Now I need to add my bust measurements now. The bust circumference is 39 inches. 39 inches divided by 4, that will give me 9 3/4. So I will mark my 9 3/4. Then I will add 2 inches sewing allowance like this to it. The bust line, I'm not going to add anything to the dart. So under bust is 32 inches. 32 inches divided by 4 to give me 8 inches. I'm going to mark 8 inches, add my 2 inches allowance to it. Then I will check the dart allowance. Will be losing 1 inch. I will replace it back. My under bust circumference is 34 inches. I'll go ahead and mark it and add my 2 inches sewing allowance. Then I'll replace the 1 inch for the dart back. So I'm going to connect these lines together now, from the half length to the under bust, and from the under bust to the bust line, and extend it to the chest line. If you take measurement on the chest line, you can also add it. You can check the measurements now and add it. So how to extend my dart now to the upper line? I will mark the same 4.5 inches like this. Then I will connect this line together like so. So this armhole line now, I'm not going to add anything to it. You know that the chest line is always smaller than the bust line, so I have enough allowance here. Since I'm not taking anything out from this place. So having said that, The next thing is to take away the zipper board from the shoulder line to where I will start marking my zipper board. For short people I use 8 inches. For tall people I use 9 inches. So this is my 9 inches now. From this 9 inches I will start marking the ½ inch or 3/4. For this person I'm going to use 3/4 because she has shape enough. I will take away 3/4 of an inch. So I will just go ahead and mark 3/4 and connect it to the down part. Then from this point, from this 9 inches, I'm going to connect my hand like this to the neck line. Let me use my free hand so that we'll be seeing. So this is the zipper board now. I will take away all of this one. I will take away this one now. It's not needed anymore. Then by the side, I'm going to go in by 1 inch. The same thing we did in front. So I will connect it back to the princess dart like this. I will connect it to the dart point like this. Now depends the person. Whenever you're taking measurement, I said you should always check the half length at the back. This person half length, I'm going to take away 1½ inches from it. So if you check your client and you see that there will be no need of taking this 1½ inch, you can leave it. But for this person, I measure her and there is need of taking away this 1½ inch. So I'm going to slant it like this to make the back sit properly. Now when you're sewing this dress, this zipper allowance, you're still to take the same 1½ inches. All of this to create a shape at the back, because if you watch the back, we are not straight because of the shoulder. The center of the back is very deep. That is why we are taking away this to make the dress sit properly. You have to still use the same 1½ inch for zipper allowance. So I'm going to cut it out. Now let me start from the neck so that we'll take away my yoke. Let me extend this yoke line to this part now. So I will cut out the neck like this. So this is my back now. I'm going to transfer it to fabric. So how to cut the down part of the gown now, the A-cut gown. So I fold my fabric into 2. This is the front that I want to cut. Now how to know the size of the fabric to fold? You just check the biggest measurement, which is the hip circumference. You divide it by 4. Since the material is folded, then you add like 6 inches. Depends how you want your A-cut to be. You can use 6 inches, you can use 8 inches, you can use 10 inches. Okay, so having said that, the next thing you have to check your fabric, the down. The next thing to do, you have to check your fabric, the side that will face down, because this fabric has a flower on it. So I'm using this side as the down. I also carve the left mouth like this. This is how the fabric. So this is how the fabric is. I have to carve it to use this side as the down. It's a transparent fabric. Depends what you're using. You can use an Ankara for this. You can use any fabric of your choice. So I will place I'm going to minus the half length now. How to get the length of the gown? I'll minus the half length. The half length here, the upper side is 17½ inches. So I'll place my tape here and minus my 17½ inches. And the length of this person is 64 inches. So this is 60 inches. This first line you're seeing here is 60 inches. I just mark. And how to get the 4 inches, because our tape is 60. So how to get the 4 inches? I place my tape here to get, this is 4 inches. I added 1½ inches to it. for seam allowance. The down, I'm not going to do anything to the down, I won't hem it, but this upper part I'm going to join it. For safety, I have to add 1.5 inches. Some of the customers, sometimes they will say, the length is short. Sometimes they told you to stop it there, but so for safety, let me add 1.5 inches to it. So this is the length of the gown. Now, how to mark the hip? I'll place my tape. This is the upper side now, so I'm going to place my tape and also minus the upper side of this gown, the 17.5 inches this way. I hope you understand what I'm doing here. The hip length first. The hip length minus 17.5. The hip length of this person is 29 inches. Now, because of the seam allowance that I added there, let me just use 30 inches like this. 30 inches or 30.5. That is, I will add that 1.5 inches, but I'm using 30 inches to still be okay. Then I will leave my tape like this. I'll leave my tape like this and continue to the knee length of this person. The knee length of this person is 42 inches. So I'm going to come up by 2 inches. That is, I'm to use 40 inches. Now, because of the sewing allowance that I also add to this upper part, you know, if I just reduce it by 2 inches, before you know, the knee will come up more. Plus and minus 41 inches to be my knee. Let me check what is at the down. It's enough. 25 inches is enough to flow. So I'm using this line now as my knee line, the 41 as my knee line. Now, how to add the measurements now? I'm going to add the half length circumference first. The half length circumference is 34. 34 inches divided by 4, that will give me 8.5 inches. So I will mark 8.5 inches like this. So I'm going to add 2 inches to each seam allowance. Then I will add that allowance. So I add 1 inch for that like this. Now this is the hip line. This line, I just use it to mark because of the tape. You remember, this line was because of the tape was 60. That is why I mark this line. So I'm to move to the hip line now. The hip circumference is 46. 46 divided by 4, that will give me 11.5 inches. I'm going to mark like this and add my 2 inches seam allowance. So I'm not going to add that to it. But this gown has a slit. If there will be no slit, I wouldn't have had my seam allowance to it. Because of the slit, let me just add 1 inch, because there will be a slit on this gown, but the slit will be for one side of the gown in front. So let me add my 1 inch for safety. Now I will move to the knee measurement. I'll just check what I have here. What I have here is 14.5 inches. So I'm going to come to the knee and take away 2 inches from this knee. If you want it to be too slim, you can take away 2.5 inches. If you don't want it to be too tight, you can even use 1.5 inches. So I'm using 2 inches for this person. So I'm going to curve my hand. I'm used to using my free hand like this. I'll connect to the hip. I see now. Then I will curve my hand to the knee. Now I can use ruler to connect it, but I like working with my free hand. I can just curve like this to get my hairline, like so. So you check what you have. If it's okay in your eyes, you leave it like that. Let me blend it properly. If you want your hair to be full than this, you can increase the sewing allowance. This one is 6 inches that I'm using for this hairline. So before I cut it out, let me mark my dart. We always use a nipple to nipple measurement to mark that, or you use what I call lap to lap. You can check from your lap or the person's lap how wide it is, if it's okay. So I'm using nipple to nipple. That is a 9 inches, 4.5 inches. I'm going to mark like this. So because it's a gown now, this is my hip line. The dart will stop before the hip line. So I'm going to mark this dart. Let me just use 10 inches, this line here. Stop before the hip line. So from this point now, this is the same 4.5 inches. So I'm going to take away ½ inch this way, ½ inch that way, the normal way that will mark that, and I will connect it like this. because I'm using a fabric, so this will be the shape of my dart. The reason why I added that 1 inch to it, so I'm going to cut it out now. I will notch the dart line like so. I'll move to the back now. So how to cut the back? This is the back. I just added a zipper allowance. If you want tail at the back, you can increase it. You can also add like 6 inches, the same thing we use for the side, or 8 inches, depends how you want the tail. If you want tail at the down part, you increase the length at the down. I want the A line at the back also. So this is my zipper allowance, normal 1.5 inches. But because I want the flake to show at the back, I just increase it by 3/4 what I have here, because the material is not enough. So if you want your own to be bigger, you can increase it. So I'm going to just follow this line and cut it out. Very simple. But what I will do now, this is my knee, this is the hip line. I will come down from the hip line by 2 inches like this. So instead of using this line, I'm going to take to remove shape here. You know, the hip is high, below the hip is slim because of our knee. So I'll take away like 1/2 inch or 3/4 from the knee. Let me use 3/4. So I will just go ahead and mark like this 3/4. I see now, and blend it to the zipper allowance, that is a 1.5 inches. So from this 3/4 now, I can now curve my hand to get the A shape at the back like this. I see now. Let me blend it well. So I'm going to cut it out now. So I'll go ahead and cut it out like this. I'll also notch the dart allowance to the back. Just connect it to the back. Now there will be a lining on this particular gown. So let me also notch the knee so that I will know this point. I will also notch at the back because there will be a half lining on this gown. So how to get the slit on this gown? There will be a slit. By the left, there will be a slit. So you have to check your fabric. Now if you watch closely, I turn the fabric to the good side. The back is now inside, so that I will not make mistake and open the slit on the wrong side. So I turn it to the front now, and I know that my slit will be by this side. That is the left. So I'm going to mark. I always use the nipple to nipple or the lap to lap. So it's 4.5 inches, the same 4.5 inches. I'm going to mark it all through like this, so that it will correspond with the dart also. So 4.5 inches this way, like this. Now, so the next thing to check, now that I've marked here, okay, I will mark this line to the upper part. So I will keep marking this line to the upper part like this. To the dart, already I have the line here for the dart. So okay, like this now. Now the next thing I will check is the length of the slit. When I was taking the person's measurement, I take from the shoulder to where the slit should stop. So how to get the slit now? I will place my tape at the upper part minus the 17.5 inches like this. This 17.5 inches. So if I minus the 17.5, her knee length is 42 inches. But because I wanted the flake to come out, I had to come up by 2 inches, and I use this line for the flake. But for her slit now, she wanted the slit to stop at 42 inches because of the sewing allowance that I added at the upper part, 1.5 inches. So I'm not going to use that 42. I'm going to use 43. So this is where the slit will stop, 43. So how to get the slit now? Remember that one side will have a dart. This other side that will be no slit will have a dart. So I'm going to cut this side open like this till down. Because of this slit, I'm going to tear it to the upper part like so. So to make the slit fit, I will take away half inch from this line now. Half inch. Depends what you want. If it's straight skirt, you don't take anything from this side, you just go this side and take like 1.5 2 inches. Depends how wide you want the slit to be. But for this person, the slit, the style, the slit is a very small slit, so I'm just taking away half inch from it. And remember, I will still sew it on. I'll find a way to blend this side. I'm not going to cut up to this part. So I will tear it open now. I'll follow the straight line first. Straight line first. So I will tear it open now. Remember, I'm cutting only one side. I'm cutting only one side. This side will be a dart, not slit. So I'm cutting one side. Please don't forget. So I'm not cutting the two sides. Now that half inch now, I will now take it, I will blend it to this line. Make sure your scissors did not cut the other side. If you don't want the slit to open too much, you can leave this half inch. I'll just blend my hand into the line like this. Okay. I'll also cut it by this side, the half inch. I'll blend my hand into the line like this. Now I'll move to the dart. You know, I marked that here, but now it's a slit that I will just sew straight. But I will take away the dart shape so that when sewing it, I won't bother to fix that again. Only one side, I'm taking away the dart shape like this. I'll blend it to the line like this. So if I'm sewing that now, it will be only this side that I will sew that. This side will just be sewing straight. Make sure you watch the sewing of this gown. Thank you so very much. Like and share my video. Comment, please.